Ooh, hello, y'all. Just got finished drinking, so I had to catch my breath real quick. But this is a follow-up to my last video announcing about the stimulus package. I'm going to upload these back to back. Y'all know my uploading schedule is 9:30 a.m., 2:30 p.m., 9:30 p.m. So I think I'm going to upload the stimulus one later on today at 9:30. So y'all might be seeing this video the following day or sometime thereafter. But there's going to be a significant gap in time. But anyways, I digress. But what I wanted to mention about is to follow up with this $900 billion stimulus deal with this new CARES Act. This is gonna ironically done made Donald Trump look good, and it's bad. It's pitiful when the deal is so horrible that somebody who is known for bankrupting 6 casinos, who done blew through his father's inheritance, who is on the hook for owing currently over $100 million, who is, I think, also being sued by his sister for some millions of dollars, had a proposal that was better for the American people than the darn gone Republicans and the Democrats who done settled for this bullshit. So if y'all have not known, to reiterate, the Republicans were originally at anywhere from $500 billion to $1 trillion at the most. Then you had Nancy Pelosi, who was at $3.4 trillion and got all the way down to, I want to say, maybe around $1.9 trillion. Then you had Donald Trump, who stayed firm at about around 1.5 to, he proposed at one time as high as 2.2 trillion. So at times they Donald Trump's offer and Nancy Pelosi overlapped. So it seemed like we was going to get some nice middle ground, especially like I said in my last video, since typically Republicans like to follow in Trump's footsteps. But it did not work out that way. No. Honey, somehow we end up getting less than what all three have originally made proposals for. Now, since then, we've had progressive Democrats come out and made all types of offers from $2,000 a month to $3,000 a month to a family of 5 getting as much as $12,000 a month. All this, that, and the third. To one-time $2,000 stimulus checks, $2,000 a month for 12 months and 6 months after the stimulus, after the corona pandemic. Then we heard more so, just another round. But everybody was all on board up until the last minute. About, I want to say, at least till a month ago, everybody was all on board that there was going to be about a guarantee for at least, at the very minimum, another round of $1,200 stimulus checks. Now, I'm trying to figure out what happened within the month where nothing has changed economically. It's actually gotten a little bit worse, where we went from a $1,200 that everybody was at the baseline guaranteeing. Now, everybody else was throwing out other offers above that, $2,000 a month, $4,000 a month, $1,200 a month in perpetuity for at least a year. But everybody at the minimum agreed to $1,200 one time again. But somehow we done gotten a $600. Now, how did this happen? How did this shit happen? Oh, baby. Honey, was somebody drunk on the brandy juice? Was somebody drunk when they darn gone crafted up this darn gone foolishness right here? And like I said, y'all know it's bad when you make somebody like Donald Trump darn gonna look good. Because like I said, now he get to walk out and say, well, at least I was on board to propose a $1.7 trillion where, the American citizens would have gotten another $1,200. I mean, honey, now, to my Republican viewers, what in the world's going on with your darn your representatives? Your representatives are now contradicting their own selves, because they was just on board for another $1,200 stimulus check, and now they done pumped the Democrats into a $900 billion. Whereas a one-time $600 that is about to come into our accounts. That ain't even going to cover a mortgage for over, 70% of us? Let alone people who are behind multiple months. People who are still forced to be closed down, such as bar owners. People who now have to account for extra expenses, such as us beauticians. What is $600 really going to do in the long scheme of things? But under Donald Trump proposal, he proposed 1.7 trillion, which, there was some bullshit along with that. Now, I think the money should have been reallocated differently. He wanted to also bail out big businesses and stuff. But for 1.7 trillion, I came up with my own chart of what you could have did with 1.7 trillion. With 1.7 trillion, you could paid out 2 rounds of stimulus checks for $1,200, including $500 for dependents, including the ones who didn't get it before. You could give out $50 billion and another $25 billion if necessary for the U.S. Postal Service. You can give out a $500 billion towards small businesses, because here's the thing: you got to give both equal amounts, proportionally. You can't just talk about bailing out businesses and not give people no money to, frequent the businesses, because once again, you're only doing enough for the businesses to pay, for their lease or whatever. But if nobody's patronizing the businesses, it's like the point of the helping the small businesses is so people can go there. The point of a stimulus check is so we can spend it towards the businesses. So you can't darn gonna focus on just giving people stimulus checks and not focus on the business. And on the same side, with Republicans, you can't darn gonna focus on the businesses and say screw the people. Because it's like, if you just darn gonna worried about giving Walmart and all these folks tax breaks, but then we ain't got no money and we holding on, honey, the economy is going to crash. But if you give us money and then don't help the businesses, honey, there ain't going to be no a good amount of businesses for us to hold on, and thus the economy crashes as well. So it got to be a balance. And I'm noticing that Republicans and Democrats are not noticing about the balance. Democrats want to focus mostly on the people and not so much on the business. Even Bernie Sanders talking about scale back loans for the businesses to give more towards the citizens. And then Republicans are saying basically screw the citizens, because they ain't even want to send out another round of stimulus checks. Focus on big businesses, not even the small businesses. But the common ground should lie in the middle, where it's like, there should have been $500 billion allocated towards small businesses, and then multiple rounds of $1,200 and $500 stimulus checks. That way, we can also keep the businesses afloat and keep them going as well, and thus not having to feel to take the need to take out as much darn on PPP loans. Because now, with the balance of people buying and frequenting the places, we're able to now keep them afloat versus the businesses having to basically defend on their own selves and nobody's coming in at all. So that's why I say there should have been a good sufficient amount for small businesses and for multiple rounds of stimulus checks. And for $1.7 trillion, that could have happened. You could have gave $500 billion towards small businesses while also simultaneously giving multiple stimulus checks, 2 stimulus checks, for citizens. In addition, you can increase the food stamp increase for another 6 months. You can also provide rental assistance. You can provide mortgage assistance. You can provide homeless shelter assistance. You can provide assistance for churches to distribute fresh fruits and foods to low-income areas, because we know food deserts exist. When Wally World comes around, all the small businesses tend to get darn gone shut out. And then, when Wally World don't make enough money, then they leave, but they don't already cause the other small businesses to go out of business, so they just can't come back and darn going build up shop again. So now that creates food deserts when you have big conglomerates come in and then cause all the other small wholesome shops to darn gonna get gone. And then when Walmart gets gone, now there aren't no nearby stores for miles and miles to help feed the people. For people to go and get food, fresh fruits and vegetables and stuff like that. Yeah, it's a cigarette shop, but a little smoke shop ain't got no or ABC store, but it ain't not got no fresh fruits and vegetables and stuff. Your service stations don't have fresh fruits and vegetables like that. They might have a little thing of milk or stuff, but they ain't got no avocados, no plantains, no bananas, apples, oranges, and all the stuff that you need. Your meats, your seafoods, and your all your darn stuff that you need. So I didn't hear none of that in these proposals, and it is just quite sad. And like I said, $1.7 trillion could have gone such a long way. Such a long way. In addition to, helping out with food deserts, like I said, provide for the U.S. Postal Service, multiple rounds of stimulus checks, PPP loans. Let me see. Oh, vaccinations, which I personally am. That's a whole nother video within itself. But for the sake of politics, we could say, okay, allocate a certain amount of budget for, making the vaccinations readily available. And then also, I do believe that we should talk about at least student loan forgiveness up to $50,000 for first responders within the medical field who are really on the front line. Like, we could at least darn on our doctors who are working overtime, who are not really getting paid like that, who are at the most high risk. The bare minimum that we can do is darn going cut down, the amount of debt that they owe, and not force them to have to wait a certain amount of years before they can get, they debt. It's like, go ahead and take $50,000 of that debt off right now. $50,000. Because, yeah, you can push it back for a certain time period, but it's like, once again, this darn pandemic is affecting people for years to come. So, yeah, you can push it back 6 to 12 months. But, honey, it's still not, this darn pandemic done set some people back a couple years. And it's like, the best that you can do in regards to the nurses is also make sure that they're paying significantly less back in the student loans. And let's go ahead and at least give them a student loan forgiveness. Because it looked like Joe Biden want to talk about he ain't providing none for nobody else. He done went in talking about he was going to guarantee that he was going to do student loan forgiveness, and it was going to be for at least $25,000. Now it looked like he's backpedaling on that. Now he prided himself on being the Democrat that can go across the aisle and get Republicans to agree with him. But on a hot mic, honey, it done came to find out that he's basically already admitting he ain't in office yet, but he's already admitting that he ain't going to be able to do shit. So everybody who was hopeful like myself, who could have got 90+% of my student loans forgiven, because I only owe about $11,000. So that $10,000, if he would at least gave us $10,000, honey, that would have been nice for me. $25,000 would have darn gone eradicated all my shit. Because, I got one in my mother's name for $8,000. So $25,000 across the board, honey, that would have eradicated everything, honey. But, honey, it look like we ain't, from what we are hearing of Joe Biden on the hot mic, honey, he ain't he look like he already backpedaling on that. But what are y'all thoughts, y'all? Like I said, 1.7 to 1.9 trillion would have been an ideal middle ground. It would have guaranteed us, if allocated properly, to give multiple rounds of stimulus checks. And for the Republicans who keep arguing about the deficit and all this, that, and the third, but is not, but is somehow justifying giving $1 trillion tax breaks to the rich, honey, you sound ridiculous. in one case, you talking about we can't afford to give the citizens who are actually producing back, because the stimulus checks and stuff and all of that actually accounts for 70% of our deficit. I mean, you know, the American spending actually counts for like 70% of the deficit and all that when you mix in student loans and all that crap. So it's like, if we actually work on getting the citizens and our economy stable, honey, that eradicates upwards of 70% of this $20 trillion plus debt. Sorry, y'all. Y'all know it's the first day of winter and all this. Ooh. But anyways, what are y'all thoughts? And then I went into details even more during my last video, so I don't want to iterate it again. But yeah, like I said, 1.7 trillion would have been the ideal middle ground. But what's y'all thoughts on what y'all would have thought was best? Do y'all think this $900 billion is enough? I think all of us agree that the 3.4 trillion would have been nice. Would have been nice. But like I said, a good middle ground for me would have been 1.7, which is ironically where Donald Trump was at. Mr. Darn 6-time casino bankruptcy, done blew through his father's inheritance, and is now $100+ million in debt, being sued. It's a secret to him darn coming up out that White House. Soon as he lose that title of the current president, honey, ready or not, here they come. They about to find you. Double entendre. Honey, they about to find him, honey. Peep the double entendre. They going to find him a good sum of money after they find him. F-I-N-D, F-I-N-E, honey. Okay. But anyways, y'all tell me y'all thoughts on this situation right here, on the darn Congress making Donald Trump ironically look good with darn settling for a measly $900 billion when Donald Trump at one point was between 1.5 trillion to 2.2 trillion. Y'all leave y'all thoughts down below. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and I'll see y'all soon with more videos. Wow.